Welcome to Authentic Space with Kasha and Chloe, who live their lives unapologetically. There is something that you mentioned before in our previous pre-recording conversation that we were kind of trying to talk about was the difference between how life and how kind of what is expected from us to succeed in life has changed over generations and over the years. And now you were talking about we were talking about this entrepreneur that I work with here in Brussels, and she's a hustler and she's awesome. She's great. She was like, she's a visionary. She's she has so much creativity and imagination, whatever, but she's always running around and doing this. She never stops. And this is kind of like a pattern that was true. Maybe you were saying when you were kind of like a bit growing up to a certain extent, where you, to be successful, you have to be a hustler, you have to be busy, you have to like chop, go around and do things, whatever, never stop. While these days, and especially after COVID, I know that we're always going back to that, but especially after COVID, I want to say for me, it was even before COVID, but okay, fine.
Yeah, but I mean, COVID, it's almost like the COVID was the shift in like how our lives for many
COVID
people
made it mainstream. Let's put it this way.
Exactly, yeah. Because prior to it, it was like a person here and there, and you were usually the odd one or, the unique one, and it was so misunderstood. And I think COVID actually allowed for so many people to open up and actually like just take a look at their lives and really for like all these things that it's been always, like there's so many people that prior to COVID who, example, right, always wanted to work from home. They've always been, complaining and this Monday through Friday work, they wish they could work from home. This commute sucks, that sucks. And all of a sudden, like, but they couldn't, they haven't been able to really get that opportunity, right, to start working from home. And then all of a sudden COVID does its magic, and everyone is stuck at home in a lockdown, and you're not going anywhere. And the majority of companies are obviously working from home, right? So it's almost like, boom, you ask and it is given, right? So basically that's, it kind of forced a lot of us, or many things to actually go, like you said, mainstream.
And slower.
But the idea, I mean, it's been brewing within all of us prior to COVID. And for some of us, the courageous souls, we were able to like step out of it on our own and kind of lead the way. But for the majority, COVID had to happen for that reason, right?
It's for a lot of people, and most people, it's much more recent. And okay,
and it's still happening, actually. Yeah, but
let's kind of like put it out there clearly, because I feel like listeners are not understanding this rambling. But what I mean is the difference between being a hustler and nothing against hustlers. Like, everyone is, if that's your authentic self, go fucking and do it. Like, I mean, I'm totally in. But the difference between, or the comparison between a hustler and a hustling life and the slow life. And so the importance that I give, for example, or we give to the slow moments and the moments of sometimes emptiness, and how there is nothing wrong with that. That instead, that's kind of part of the whole success, the whole progress that you make as an entrepreneur, as a creative, as a human being, etc. And how it's really interesting to see. And you were mentioning that before, where you were saying like, I was like that, I was a hustler, and it's always like back and forth. And it's funny how things have changed, and how we now, I mean, maybe it comes with age, of course, but I do also believe, as you said, that there is a shift in society where the slower life is appreciated much more. Its potential is appreciated much more, and there is literally way more importance given to mental health, for example. And
absolutely.
how
the thing is that so we are talking about just basically two different energies,
Hmm.
and they both exist. Um, but this whole thing of, at the end of the day, everyone wants to feel fulfilled, everyone wants to feel love, joy, be happy, and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so, like for the longest time, this hustler mentality, and there was actually a lot of inspirational speakers um, and kind of guides in the world and stuff that would actually promote hustling, right? And so, and the thing is that, ever it life is very, and it still is, life has always been about kind of finding, like, what's the next best thing, what's the next, oh, this is going to help me to take that step, this is going to help me to do whatever. And the thing is that at the end of the day, it's because everyone is searching for that peace of mind, fulfillment, know what your purpose is. You want to, you want to find satisfaction in life. And in reality, that's what life should be. You should not be like, if you're miserable doing something in life, that means it's not your way. Like, life was not,
Yeah, for
you were not
sure.
put to this, like, on this planet to basically suffer through something because an inspirational teacher is telling you, you got to work hard, don't sleep 2 hours a night, and that's it. And the thing is that I do want to say that um, because again, it comes down to it being the energy. And everyone is different and everyone has a different energy. So there are people out there in the world that have that hustler, not even mindset. They're driven by hustling, they're driven by, being visionaries and, just go-getters, and they don't really feel like they're rested if they sleep more than 3 hours a night. They're really
Yeah.
fine, and it's fine. But the moment you need coffee to wake up, you keep on snoozing your alarm clock, you're unrested, and you're basically forcing yourself to get out and go there because if you're not a hustler, you're not going to survive and you're not going to be happy in this world. Then that means it's not really in alignment with your own energy and how you're supposed to be living your life.
But
Um,
isn't this also like the way that, and I'm actually guilty of that a bit at the beginning when I said that, but isn't it how maybe society builds it up? Like how it's like the hustler versus the slow lifer, I want to call it.
yeah,
Like it doesn't have to be in opposition, right? It doesn't, it can be just two different aspects of the same spectrum, or just how you can be. You can be either or. And
it's always about finding balance, right, in everything. Um, but being hustler or living like a slow life are two extremes again,
yeah,
right? You just have to find yourself on that spectrum, because you can be, if you're a hustler, you're one extreme. If you're living a completely like that slow life, that's the other extreme. Now, there's times in our life where we want to put in more action. We want to be more kind of go-getters, have that ambition. But to me, that's not a level of being a hustler.
mm,
That's usually an action, inspired action. You're usually inspired, and when you are inspired to do something, it doesn't feel like work, it doesn't feel like hard work, it doesn't feel like you're forcing yourself to do something in order to achieve. You are basically, an inspired action is basically creating from the source, and out of nowhere you have the energy like there's no tomorrow, and you don't even, like, you just want to burst out with creativity and inspiration and creation.
I this resonates with me a lot actually, because I have times where I mean I'll give you this example. Like the past 3 weeks, 3 weeks, yeah, I would say 3 weeks for me work wise have been insane, and
Hmm.
I am, and I've also started that class that we were talking about last time, whatever. So
Hmm.
it's like I literally
What's
have,
going on? Yeah.
it's, yeah, it's, I have lots going on, and it's just like whatever. But it's almost like, and then I had this other thing coming up this week, which it was more creative, let's say, and I said yes to it, even if I knew that I would have had to like stay up like until 3 a.m. and break my back and just whatever. But I was just so excited about it that I was like, well, you know what? I'm still gonna do it. And I'm like a slow lifer. Like, okay, not like dead, but you know, I take it slow and whatever. But then it's funny because
I don't
today,
think you are. I think you know. No, I think that you're able to like distinguish between like, okay, now I'm a go-getter, because you're very much like an entrepreneurial, like kind of generating your drives and your passions. You definitely very much have that. Like you don't really have to, and this is kind of a little bit different from like maybe creativity, um but you do have some of that like energetic, energy within you, but you also know when it's time to relax, and when you need that time too.
and my biggest lesson here, which I want other listeners to actually know about, is the fact that I do not, for anything in the world, feel guilty about it. So the example is I've had this 3 weeks of like hustling, 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 which is not hustling really, but it's just like having a lot of projects because that's what drives me, as you said. And then just kind of like saying, okay, 7:30, I'll turn off, I'll have a nice meal, I'll watch TV and knit and whatever.
Right. And so like, and that's the thing, that's the difference, right? A hustler would not turn off their phone when they're eating.
No,
They
no,
would
no,
literally
no,
go to bed with their phone on loud, and they would be available within the moment it's ringing.
exactly.
So that's the difference where you're crossing that boundary, right?
Exactly. And then today I was planning on doing something for a client, whatever. And I said, I woke up and as I said, I actually worked until like 3 a.m. 2 days ago. So every time that I don't sleep at least like 8 hours, I just have like, I need a full day to recoup and just, and the older I get, the more valid this statement is. But yeah, so I had a very like nice dinner last night with Ben. We watched shows, whatever. We went to bed. I slept literally 9 hours straight. And this morning I got up and I had planned to do something for a client. And I said, it almost like naturally my body and my mind were not connecting to having to do the work and just be like, well, I need to do this. Oh, I'm going to wash the dishes. Oh, I'm going to, look for this. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Nothing related to work. And then I was, prepping for for this dinner that we have tonight. And then, the podcast and stuff. And I literally just like, I don't want to use the term lost the day, but it's because I didn't lose the day. It's exactly what I needed. I had a very slow day and it was freaking awesome. Like,
well, it was because you were actually charging your batteries. I like those.
exactly. And that's totally what like I mean when I say that I found the point at which I will have a busy life, but I will never, ever, ever give up my quiet time, my slow time, my moments where I do nothing.
Right, because it's
I'm
like
proud of it.
you do not everyone does, but like for you, you can actually work under pressure very well. And it's actually a skill to have. Not everyone has that. Not everyone is capable of it. But again, it's finding that balance, right? And I do feel, especially since you started your own company, you've been really getting into the dive of like, what is my balance, and finding that sweet spot for you, whatever that may mean, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like it really like at the certain point, at the certain point I was finding it really really hard to turn off my brain. Like we would go on holidays and I'd be like thinking, oh my god, when I get back I need to finish that and I need to finish this and I need to finish that, whatever. But now I am so jealous of those moments away from home, for example, or those moments that I do dedicate to stuff other than work. And again, I mean, I'm lucky enough to I can say that I have a creative job, so technically, like, it really never really feels like I'm working. There are certain circumstances, and I'm like, oh my god, I don't want to do this because no job is perfect, but okay. But I am really, really proud of being able to just like click on and off because
Mhm.
I really, really, really understand and value the importance of the downtime.
Yep.
and and I think everyone should, and I think we unfortunately, even like maybe more pre-COVID, live in a society where if you're not busy, well, it means you're not working enough or you're not good enough or something like that. But I do strongly believe that we do need downtime.
No, absolutely. And I do feel that hustlers, again, it's just the extreme. And there I feel that a more natural energy is to be busy, is to be ambitious and going after your dreams and stuff like that. But within that kind of spectrum, you still have a little bit of time or wiggle room for you to say, okay, I am driven, I have all these goals, but right now I just want to sit and, I don't know, have a sip of tea outside and just not do anything for like 30
Yeah,
minutes to an hour.
exactly. Let's say it how it is. Let's say it how it is. Because I think this is the main problem. This is the main problem because we need to stop just trying to look at people that have those moments of nothingness as
Personally,
lazy
I
or
feel whoever feels that they're a hustler and they're literally 24/7 in just that one spectrum and that one extreme. I do feel, from obviously from a psychologist coaching perspective, I do feel that that person has something else that they need to work on, and for some reason they just there's some underlying issue that they need to really work through, and that they're not aware of, or maybe it's just a distraction. They do know what it is and they just keep on just distracting it because they don't want to see it or they don't want to work through it. um, so I do yeah, so it's more of like, if you look at the light and shadow kind of spectrum, and obviously there's kind of the balance in the middle and stuff. Hustler would be like kind of the most shadow aspect of things. And but yeah, it's I've seen what it's done to people. And like, so we were initially, when we started talking about this, we were both kind of talking about like our upbringing, right? And like, so for me personally, I've always kind of been brought up to like work hard, not even play hard, just work hard.
yep.
And it's always been, you got to have, a solid job, working hard, working, and then growing up, I remember I was in high school, and I was in high school and I took this like program that was more for like seniors, or like working people or working students. So basically I had like 1 hour less of school, but I started school like at like 7 a.m. versus like 8:30 when everyone else started.
Ah,
And then I would leave at like 1:30, and then I would have enough time for a job, right? So I kind of been in that program, and because I've worked since I was 13 years old, right? And so, but for me it's always been, because of this kind of this thing that I was brought up with, of like working hard, and everywhere I look, it's like, if you're sitting down underneath a tree and just for 5 minutes and not doing anything, then there's that's something wrong. Like, you shouldn't not be not doing anything,
time is
unless,
money.
right, like, exactly. Or even if you're not making money, it's like, if you're not like coming home at the end of the day basically like completely exhausted out of your energy, then that means like you don't have a productive day, you don't have a good day, because you're not tired enough. So that's kind of like the mindset that I've been brought up with. And so going back to like high school, when I was in this program, the requirement was that I wasn't supposed to work more than 20 hours with school, basically on paper. But off paper, I literally worked like 40 plus hours because I had three jobs. And the thing is that not because I needed it, because obviously I was still living with parents, and it's not like I needed to pay for anything or what have you, but it's because of that training and that upbringing that I had, thinking that like, oh, they're going to be so proud of me because I get to handle all of it, and I'm able to handle it, and I have all these jobs, and I am literally, I can, I'm not afraid of any job, and it's just like that's what I felt that my parents would be proud of.
It's the degree, it's like the value of your success, right?
Exactly. Like that was my value. Exactly. That was my self-worth. And so growing up, I always had this mindset. I finished, school, or, and then I kept on, and then it wasn't enough that I had three jobs and I was in school, but also the fact that, like, because I was also very ambitious, I always had this, well, okay, so this job doesn't pay me a lot, so now let me find another one that's like, oh, a dollar or two extra per hour or something. And I just kept on climbing that ladder, and then you go to college, same thing. I just keep on, one job is, oh, wait, I have a job, great, but now I have 2 days off. What am I supposed to do with 2 days off? You're not going to have fun. You have to find a job because that's your worth, that's your value, right? So I just kept on going like that, and obviously then finished my bachelor's degree, and I was already, in the corporate world. And what does everyone do in the corporate world? You climb the corporate ladder.
Of course.
So that's exactly what I did. Worked my ass off, and especially because I started my corporate career in kind of the New York metropolitan area, which is one of the most hustlers heavens in the world. Um, there's other heavens like that in the world, but New York City is definitely it. And so I kept on, doing that, and working more, and then more hours, and even though it was just one job, it's almost like something was off or wrong if I had a weekend off.
It's almost like you're like, oh my God, what is going on? I have a weekend.
Yeah, it's almost like I need to do something because I'm not working enough. Because again, it was constantly that, like, and obviously my career, I climbed the corporate ladder to management roles very quickly, because I was living constantly, was, and even though I worked, 60 plus hours, then I end up, traveling on weekends to, like, to the Caribbeans and other countries and stuff like that, just for the weekend, because I didn't have to work, so I had to do something, right? So luckily it wasn't at that point in time three jobs, but it was a job, and then it's like, oh, I need to sign up for Spanish, and I need to sign up for this class and that class because I'm not doing enough, right? So I was always overdoing, and always overdoing, and climbing the corporate ladder. The moment I got a job, it was like, okay, now that I have this title, let me look for another job to get a better title and yet better, more money, right? So that's kind of, so I was very much in that hustler mindset mentality, and it was always like that was kind of what I thought my status was.
I'm sure you thought that that's what mattered in life, and that was
Yep.
the reason. I mean, I don't know if you were like wondering about the reasons why you were on this planet, but
But that's the thing. When you're so busy, you don't have the time to even think about what you
yeah,
really want.
yeah. How did that change? Like, what happened?
Well, for me, well, the best thing in the world happened is what happened was I basically got such a I went into a deep breakdown. I got completely ill, sick. My adrenals went out, my liver went out, my hormones got completely out of whack. I had to quit my corporate job. I had to literally close everything, move, and I just went traveling the world. And I've had so many health issues, problems, dissatisfactions, not knowing who I was. I literally woke up and I was like 32, at that point in time. And I was drained out of energy, out of everything. Life completely was like sucked out of me. And now it's actually what it's been, I don't know, like, well, 5 6 years, and I'm still recovering from it. So obviously I'm stronger than ever,
But
but
that's where I was going, because to me that we what bothers me the most is this, and this is for everything. It's work, it's eating, it's
mhm,
fashion,
it's
it's
everything.
we
Yeah.
always it's everything that we live through, which is restrictions.
Hmm.
Restrictions of your free time, because having too much free time means you're not successful. And don't eat too much because this is bad. And oh, don't spend too much, or do spend so much. Oh, don't do this. Oh, don't do that. And it's like, what is this culture and this society putting us through? Like, our bodies are not built for this.
Right. So basically, yeah, so we need to live in connection with our body, mind, and soul, right? And unfortunately, we are constantly being led not to discover who we are and then go after it and really like be in alignment with who you are meant to be and what you're meant to be doing in this world. But instead, like you're basically trained to step on this path that like your families, generations, civilizations, and so on, ancestry, what have you, that have lived on. There's no space for, um, a new soul coming into light and kind of leading the way. It's all
Yeah.
about we do things the way we used to do things. And that's why change is so hard.
There's some sort of development. It's kind of like more of a technological development, but I do believe that at a certain point, this type of development will implode, as every civilization has imploded, and and then we'll have to start from
Yep,
scratch again. And I think
absolutely.
that I think um we are already kind of towards something like that. I mean, I don't know. I do want to end it with a positive note, though. So, what positive can we um, can we take from this, from our own experiences, and that could be a good piece of advice for someone struggling with what we've been struggling for in different ways? Because I've never really been in that sort of like life that you've been.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the thing is that not everyone needs to go through this. Obviously, the sooner we wake up and we become conscious of um, not being certain things just not working for us and not keep on distracting. Obviously, being in a hustler mode is a distraction. Just like any addiction is, it's just a distraction from you um, not seeing who you really are. Um, and so like some people like me, I needed to fall down. There's some people that like I've met that basically had a heart attack or something. You don't have to be that person. You can, the sooner you start really asking questions, and do ask questions like, am I really living with my purpose? Am I really happy in life? Like that should be the first question. Are you happy when you wake up? Are you happy or are you anxious?
Or are you struggling?
Are you struggling? What are you struggling with?
Yeah,
Right.
I
And
think
then
that these
just
are good pointers.
start
Yes.
asking questions. And if some, and be honest with yourself. And the moment you ask questions and you're honest with yourself, all of a sudden things are going to start surface. And you're going to start realizing, okay, maybe something is not working. And
Yep.
if it's not working, ask why.
Yeah.
um, and
Because you
then
will always get signs. No, I mean, the signs are always
Right.
there.
And then ask why, and then ask yourself, what can I do about it? Because all the answers are within you. It's just a matter of actually tapping into your soul and tapping into your purpose, tapping into your soul. Again, going back to what we started with, you're meant to live a life that's full of happiness, love. You should be loving life. You should be loving every single day. You shouldn't be walking out tired or sick or in pain or in aches. All of that is not okay. um, you should be fully, your body, your mind, your soul, when it's in full connection with it, with itself, you're gonna lead a beautiful life. And if that's not the case right now, I would start asking questions. Start asking your soul, and you will start getting signs. Stay tuned for more and join our community at AuthenticSpacePodcast.com and on Instagram at AuthenticSpacePodcast.